Hey. Yeah. Gotta make sure it's all good, man. Yeah.
I'm gonna put behavior mods like right here. Sew it in.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, man. I was just on another call with my East St. Louis team, right?
Yeah.
What happened to Megan?
She's here. I think she just yeah. Just turned off the video. Yeah, if anyone feels shy or just like, oh, I don't really need video, that's cool. If you want to turn it off or always good. Whatever your preference.
Before we jump right into the presentation, just out of curiosity, Megan, Kelly, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of stressed, not stressed, where would you say you are on that scale at this very moment as a response to being quarantined or going out in public with other people or what's happening with Minneapolis? Where's your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know what? I'm sorry to say this, but I have no idea what's happening in Minneapolis. I don't have a TV and I really am not connected right now. My stress though is like my work is going back to work. So I'm actually in my work right now. So yesterday when I came back for the first day, I could feel tension in my neck. And so I'm stressed just about like going back to work.
Yeah.
And finding childcare. So I'm not really stressed about like COVID and going to the grocery store. And my stress comes from like work or going back to normal, so-called normal. What is normal?
Right.
Yeah, hear you there.
But I would say I'm at a 10. I mean, I can feel stress just from yesterday, like going back to work.
Yeah, Megan, do you have any commentary on that?
Yeah, I think that if I answer in a real way in this particular moment, I think that I don't really feel stressed about, we have sort of settled into our groove right now with what life looks like in the midst of this new situation and the response to COVID and how that's affecting us personally and academically with the kids and our home life and our businesses. And I think that I'm just kind of trusting my moment by moment guidance on that. And I've rearranged and reframed the way that I'm viewing some things. But I feel extremely stressed about Minneapolis. I feel really angry about that.
Yeah.
Yep. And Kelly, we'll I don't know if we want to get, maybe as part of this presentation, what's happening in Minneapolis will come out as it relates to how to address anger and what's going on. I know you're out of the loop right now. It's pretty intense. It was extremely intense last night. I'm sure it will get more and more intense, maybe even here in St. Louis. But I think this particular presentation, I think will help reframe even the way we look at Minneapolis in time. And so maybe today's conversation is just the introduction to how to reframe your viewpoint on situations that we've seen forever that appear to have no clear and present solution. And the question is, how do you deal with that emotionally without reliving it day after day after day after week, year after year? I think we've got some pretty practical ways to help you all do that. So we're excited to get started.
Yeah, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and screen share. And if you want, you can keep it's your preference if you want to keep your camera on or not. It's cool. So we'll just get started. We got this screen share here. And feel free at any time to go ahead and look in the chat and type in any questions. And Dobby, if you want to kind of take a look at that, I don't know if I can see it with the screen share, but we'll go ahead and get started here once it loads up. Here we go. All right. So we're getting practical today, people. So yeah, one of the things that we kind of wanted to talk about, and Megan talked about this too, everyone's kind of getting settled in to the new, routine. And now more than ever, since they don't have the structure from, daily assignments, what are we going to do? How are we going to balance all of this craziness, right? And so we got some practical stuff today to show you. And Megan, I don't know if you checked it out, the video, but Kelly, last week, I wanted to kind of ask you, did you have anything to share about your exercise last week that we worked on, the anticipation mantra that we worked on?
I think I shared via email that I was happily willing to share. After that day, my husband and I had another hour conversation about what I learned. And so what I've really been doing is asking others if they know about the Stoic approach. So to be 100% truthful, I have not really practiced the waking up every morning and writing down that idea about our children. And I loved some of the little lessons I learned that you said, like only 3 kids at your desk at a time. We happen to have 3 children. And so my husband and I have been very conscious about giving attention to the children and how to split up time and how to not ever do everything together. So in terms of that, I not that many people know about Stoic thinking, and I am subconsciously using the information that I learned last week in parts of my daily life, but I'm not focused on doing it in the morning or in the night or anything.
I know exactly what you mean, and I think that Dobby can kind of relate to that too. Is that it kind of can be difficult to actually practice those sort of exercises, and it's good that you're thinking, and that's what the main goal is, to think about our approach and how we're going to approach the day in general. So it's good. We're on a good start. It just takes kind of an extra step for that daily discipline, which is, that'll come with time too. So
and Kelly, you're at the same stage my wife is at. I've given her the daily morning mantra, and some mornings she's better about at least looking at it. Whether or not she reads it and recalls it is another story. But the fact that you're aware that you have it and that you're taking an interest in Stoic thinking, like Bob said, is an excellent first step. So I would say that it's a sign of progress, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say this real quickly, because I think this is interesting. My husband does practice meditation, and he does a gratitude list every night. So he sits down and focuses. So just yesterday, he was trying to tell me that I needed to meditate. Now, I in principle, I do agree with him, and I think that taking some of this thinking is also on that realm. But and I've done some other looking into meditation stuff right now, but this is the age-old problem of like time. And when's the best time for you? And there's another woman who I've been following recently who says, even if you take 20 minutes throughout the day, 3 times a day, right? So really it's just that discipline of finding the best time for you, right? Like,
right.
So I hate to admit this, but like I've been thinking about this for almost 6 months, and I still haven't done it. So
You're in the right place. You're in the right place.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into it. I kind of wanted to preface the whole practical steps to helping out your home life with this. A quote by Marcus Aurelius, as we said, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers. He says, pay attention to what's in front of you, the principle, the task, or what's being portrayed. So basically just get in that realm of focus, getting in that realm of routine. And it's kind of like that anticipation sort of boost to yourself in order to get you prepared for what's to come. Mm-hmm. So here's some practical steps, and we're going to outline these individually. So here's just an overview about what you can do.
The slides aren't moving.
Oh, they're not? Hold on a second. Sorry about that, everybody.
This.
All right, let's try to, maybe if I stop share and then start it again.
And Kelly, I guess part of the reason that we called it the morning mantra is because we realized how difficult it is to find that time, which is why the morning is honestly the best time to put this routine into practice, because it's the first part, it's the only time of day that's really yours that you control, because you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself as soon as you wake up. So that's kind of why we want you to get in the habit of saying, okay, here's what's coming my way. When I meditate, I'll meditate about what to expect. So you're prepared for it as you go throughout your day.
Yeah. Can you guys see the slides now?
Yep.
All right, cool. So here's kind of an outline of all the different stuff we'll talk about. So obviously creating routines, and this is, a lot of this is, I kind of laugh at this because I do this in the classroom all the time. So this is my educator self kind of coming out and telling you sort of the tips, the nitty gritty tips that I like to use in the classroom that will definitely work at home too. So creating routines with times, very important to have a set time schedule. We'll talk more about that. Creating separate workspaces. It's really important for you to have your space, and also for your children and your spouse to have their own space too. So just kind of separate yourself around the house can be a really good thing. Setting procedures for asking you questions, because we all know we're trying to get to work, but our kids can come up. You know, I have it with my students. Dobby has it with his children when we're trying to work or have something. They try to come up and ask us questions because they think it's a really important thing, right? Oh, can I do this? Oh, I need to interrupt my parents in order to ask them. So have some sort of procedure for that. Dividing roles between spouses, always a good thing. If you have, if you have that extra spouse in the house, that's always a good thing to do. And the last thing is, oh, that was the last thing. And we'll go through each of these individually. So we'll get on to that. It looks like there's some stuff in the chat here. See what people are saying.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to Kelly and I are going back and forth.
Oh, cool. All right. You guys can still see the slides though.
Kelly, we're going to hold you accountable. We're done with this whole 6 month putting it off and thinking about doing it. Damn it, we're going to do it. We're going to all right?
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
And getting into these things individually, and Megan, this will definitely, apply to your situation too. For in the same way as there are unpleasant climates for which we are trying, even in the most, sorry, let me restart that. For in the same way as there are unpleasant climates which are trying, even to the most robust constitutions, there are others which are none too wholesome for the mind. I do not agree with those who recommend a stormy life and plunge straight into the breakers, waging a spirited struggle against worldly obstacles every day of their lives. The wise man and woman will put up with these things, not go out of their way to meet them. He or she will prefer a state of peace to a state of war. So kind of preparing us, we need to be wise about how we schedule our day and sort of go through the tasks in like spirits. All right, so I guess we'll go into it. So creating routines with times. Make sure that any schedule that you have with your child is really easy to follow, because we all know there can be kind of some gray areas, right? And so we want to make sure that we be as specific as possible. Make it written. If you want to print out copies, if you want to share files with your kids, well, we're all digital these days, that would be awesome. Here's when we need to be up for breakfast, or here's a window to do that. Here's when you should be, having playtime, doing your homework, such as this. Include both work and play, very important, not only for getting people's distractions out, but also to, psychologically speaking, it's very important just to have playtime for kids. Well, there's a lot of evidence for that. There is room for negotiation in the beginning. So give your kids kind of a choice. If you give them the choice, it kind of lessens the sting of, oh, our parents are making us, controlling our lives, right? We want to lessen all those sorts of objections. So obviously, if you can have them negotiate, it'll make them seem included. This is a trick in education to always, give them a choice. But if you need to limit the choices, for example, I'll let you go to sleep anytime you want, as long as it's before 10:30, right? You're giving them the choice, but you're still setting that final limit to have them, not go over. So that's a really important thing too. And also, Kelly, Megan, it's really important to start your day with that anticipation exercise that we did last week. And that video is on YouTube. Megan, I can definitely get that to you if you need to do that.
Great.
Dobby, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm reading Kelly's question, which is, what if you have a partner who hates routine? Can the times be 9 to 12, reading, work, 12-ish, lunch, 1 to 3 playtime? It can be any time. I guess for me, it's all the time. It started off with me in the car listening to podcasts, just to kind of get myself in the habit of not thinking as I've always thought, because I was always stressed out. So I had to really find time when I was alone and I knew I wouldn't be disturbed. And for me, it was in the car listening to audio podcast on this stuff. I eventually moved into reading every morning.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, hey, listen, Dad has 30 minutes of study time. I'm sick, I need to study, and do not bother me. And so just the kind of expectation that I'm not going to be with you for 30 minutes and I am not to be disturbed created my little safe space to really focus on what this stoic stuff was all about. So that's how I approached it, Kelly.
Yeah, and it's really good. And like this is kind of an extension of the anticipation exercise, the negative visualization, is that if there's an accepted sort of agreement between you and whoever you're making that agreement with, if the expectation is there that there's going to be a certain way that things are going to go, it makes it a little less problematic when you get into whatever that routine is. And so just even telling that person, okay, I'm going to have my time split apart for whatever I need to do, whether it's, having alone time or just, having that quiet time that you need for, like you were said, meditation, let them know. And that's a very good first step, to have your spouse know that they're actually aware of it. Yeah. So that's always a good thing.
And later on down the line, we'll talk about how to respond to those people who don't really respect your space, and how to not be angry when they do. So and it sounds very in theory, oh, this sounds really fantasy and wonderful, but the practical part comes in when the world doesn't bend to your will, right? How do you emotionally respond when no one cares that you're meditating? And that's later down the line. But just know that there are solutions for the feelings that will come from the disrespect of your routine, or people thinking it's stupid, or whatever may come.
Yeah, absolutely. Dobby, that's great. Talking about creating separate workspaces, kind of going on to that second point, is it's always important. I mean, we know this. We get along with our spouses, we get along with our kids, but we need to have time for ourselves, right? We need that isolation where we can get into that creative zone, or just to be sane almost sometimes. We just need our space. And so it's really important. If you have different rooms for you or your spouse during working hours, that would be great. If you can have, Kelly, like you said, you had 3 kids, and Megan with your kids, is that if you have different rooms for you and your spouse, for them as well, it just makes that separation easier. Also, with separate rooms, there's not going to be constant guidance, so make sure that you talk about appropriate noise levels. And obviously we get into these zones where, if it's playtime, there'll be a little bit more aggression. If you're dealing with, boys sometimes more than girls, a lot of times you'll get these random outbursts about, if there's roughhousing, stuff like this. Yes. Make sure that you go through that. Definitely. I see that in the classroom a lot too. Yeah.
Can I say something? Can I put a story in here, Bob?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So real quick, I've got my oldest son is going to Metro, so he'll be a freshman next year. And then my youngest is going into the 4th grade. So these two I live in a 2-story. Upstairs, these kids are so loud. It's like they're dropping bowling balls in the room, or they're body slamming each other. And any noise used to disturb me to no end, especially when I was working or when I was in school. And they just didn't seem to understand how loud they were.
Yes.
Through this stoic process, not only do the noises not bother me because I know that they're kids and they're loud, and that's just what kids do and how they are, I'm able to correct their behavior without doing so in anger, wanting to choke the life out of them. All thanks to these, well, honestly, this early morning mantra is how I got started. So, we can share a lot of stories about how practical these applications are and then how well they work. My stress level has never been this low in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I think also, as a mom, Kelly, speaking to what you're saying about time and meditation, I think that, so this, mindfulness and wellness is sort of the business that I'm in also. And over the years, I've developed this strategy, Kelly, when the kids need me first thing in the morning, that I do what's called these micro meditations, which is when I'm going somewhere, I try and arrive a few minutes early. And then there's an app on your phone where you can set a timer, even if it's just 2, 3, 6 minutes, and just breathe and close your eyes knowing that there's a timer. So you don't even have to worry about time. And you would be amazed by what even 3 or 5 or 6 minutes feels like if you do it a couple times throughout the day.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's
Megan.
really
So
good.
are you saying that you arrive at the place a few minutes early? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So if I have an appointment or I'm going to the grocery store or whatever it might be where you can steal a few minutes, you can put in these little micro meditations during that time where before you go and do your next activity, you give yourself, 3 or 5 nourishing minutes.
And so what we're doing is exactly what you're doing. Instead of physically giving yourself those 3 to 5 minutes to kind of just be there and calm down, we're asking that you do that mentally. And instead of 3 or 5 minutes, you think well far in advance of anything that could happen. So it's like mini micro meditations all the time. It makes sense. Yeah.
Like living it, like through your day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like you visualize. So I'm gonna go to Schnucks probably within the hour. I've already visualized everything that could possibly happen at Schnucks. The people, the long lines. Somebody might cough on me. A kid might be with a cart. So instead of having to physically be there early to calm down, in my mind, I've gone through all of the possible situations that will bring about stress. And so when I meet them head on, I really don't even feel them anymore. They're not stressful. I've lived through this already in my mind. So it's just
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Megan, thanks. And it's always good to, it's always good to quieting your mind and just kind of focusing on the task at hand and not having all these other distractions. And so you can accurately visualize the situation is always a good thing. And Stoicism, the cool thing about it is the practice of it requires you, like Dobby said, to almost constantly do that and just kind of being super focused on the event. And then you can, once you experience it, a lot of that stuff, like you said, you become sort of vaccinated, I think is a good term to use for today, against all these different things that come your way, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of commonalities between those two things for sure.
Yep.
So, all right. So next thing, you guys can still see the slides, right? I just want to make sure that we're all good. Okay. Cool. So setting a procedure for asking questions, and Kelly brought this up because I kind of mentioned it last week. Only 3 people allowed at my desk at a time. That's kind of what I tell my students in class if they're doing independent work and I'm kind of monitoring from my desk at that certain moment. Usually I'm up and around, but if I'm at my desk, usually I'll say, all right, only 3 people at a time. Because if there's a task, a lot of times people, they'll gather and crowd around. So it's really important for you during this time to set yourself a procedure for asking questions while you're working from home, right? So make sure that you stick to an agreement, whatever you guys come up with. It's that's always kind of the key thing. Talk about the difference, and this is really the key, right? Talk about the difference between important and non-important questions or concerns or requests, right? Because sometimes we know with children, especially with younger children, everything becomes a question sometimes, right? Oh, is it okay? Like I've had students in my classroom asking me, Mr. Simber, is it okay if I sharpen my pencil, right? And I kind of laugh to myself, and it's kind of a funny thing. And I say, yes, you can sharpen your pencil. Thanks for asking me, but you don't have to ask next time, unless I'm in the middle of a lesson or if there's exceptions to that, right? So it's really important that they know beforehand what those exceptions are. What is something that I need to request my mom or dad with, right? Here's kind of an interesting thing that I was talking to some parents about the other day is if you and your child both have access to technology, maybe you can consider having your child ask you via text message or Facebook message or any other messaging device. So instead of having them, interrupt the meeting or interrupt your workspace, you can just say, hey, if you have a question, just text me, I'll text you back. And the personalization with your child kind of goes away. But as far as efficiency, that could be the way to go. So yeah, I just wanted to give you those kind of quick tips for that. And Gabi, did you have anything to say? Have you used any of these methods before?
I started out with the important, non-important questions because Dominic is 9. So, there are a ton of questions that I don't think are important, but to him, who lives in Neverland, are critical questions. So I started out with, Nick, that can wait, or I'll answer it. But now I'm kind of at the point that I really try to field most questions. Sometimes I get myself in trouble because I should set boundaries. So it works. You just have to be consistent, and I'm guilty of not being as consistent as I should be sometimes.
Yeah, consistency also. That's an important point too. Is be consistent with it too.
Yep.
Yeah. Procedure is always a good thing. And then what we got is kind of a reminder of this whole thing is, and this is kind of the lesson that the Stoics bring to us, right? Is that even if obviously these will help, all of these different tips, but it's really important for us to tell ourselves that this will not be a perfect thing. It's not really, we as parents in this time of the coronavirus, we aren't really used to, having all these really almost minimalistic routine setting things to do. And so it's really important to remember that this will not be a perfect journey. We need to set realistic expectations. And that's kind of one of the Stoic trainings that we're going to get into with these once in our coming weeks, is that accurate expectations are really insanely helpful with stress, with goal setting, with your own personal growth. It's really, really important to have these sorts of thoughts about what is a realistic expectation, and we'll talk more about that too.
Yeah, and by no means are Bob or myself, we have not reached the status of wise men.
No.
At times, my expectations are unrealistic as well.
Yeah.
And even yesterday, Bob really helped me out and kind of put things into perspective, even for myself. And, we both study this constantly. So if you're new to this, don't beat yourself up. If it's not working yet, don't give up. The midday mantra, I think, will help. Yeah, Bob, go to the midday mantra.
Let's do it.
So
let's
midday
go.
mantra,
Here it is.
This is what we are asking people to do. This goes back to the point Bob was making earlier about, making some space for yourself, kind of getting away. When you do, say this to yourself. When I finally find some peace and quiet, I'm going to be disturbed and distracted by kids and family who are, fill in the blanks with the type of people who live with you. And when I am, I will recall a time when I acted in that same way. I will correct rather than punish their behavior. the way the Stoics looked at things was so accepting that to discipline somebody was to prevent them from doing the bad behavior any further. It wasn't to punish. It's something I really had to wrap my mind around. I mean, as a kid, I got the belt, I got
Yeah.
time. I mean, it's not the way we raise kids nowadays.
Yeah.
I was punished for my behavior, expecting the behavior to be changed because I was afraid of being punished again. Well, this is just kind of the way a lot of people raise kids. Well, it's not about how you raise your kids. What we all want is that their behavior stops. So through this Stoic way of thinking, there are ways to correct their behavior without punishing them that keeps your stress level down. So if you can, at some point, remember to just say to yourself, when I have serenity now, there will be somebody who will disturb it. And in fact, when I was a kid, I probably did the same thing. Or I probably did the same thing to my husband last week. So just try to put yourself in their position and remember that we are all on the same journey toward better behavior.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, give them a break, give yourself a break. And going further, we'll show you how to correct rather than punish behavior so that they won't continue to act in the same way. Any questions on that?
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I don't have a question, but I do want to share a little bit of something. A cousin of mine was telling me what she does, and I've started doing this, is like, I feel like the meal time is a really hectic time at our house in a good way, right? I have kids helping. I have my husband's, we're all like in our very small kitchen, and we probably shouldn't really all be in there. But what I've started doing is, after everybody has their food on their plates and after I finally sit down, I've started saying, okay, nobody ask me any more questions. I'm not going to, or like in terms of food, right? Like, I'm not going to get any more milk. I'm not going to get anything else. Like, it's my time to eat with you. Okay. And so that's been helpful. Now, I don't do it every time. And I've noticed that when I say that out loud to the family, then my 10-year-old or my husband or even the 8-year-old will then assist the 3-year-old if need be, right? Like, because they know that I've said, okay, I'm not trying to say that, I just say like, this is the family time to eat now. Like,
you set expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. We also, so that's just something that came to mind, but there was something else I wanted to say. Now I lost it, but.
Kelly, I've got a question for you. Has there ever been a time when you've said that and the meal didn't go your way?
Like, oh, well, that's another sort of joke between my husband and I, is that we try to do sit down meals, but we have like a little counter space in the kitchen, and then we have a dining room. But sometimes the dining room table has, well, now it's the workspace. So the sit down meals are in the kitchen now, which we only have 4 stools and we have 5 people in the house. So the sit down meals are not the best, but his point is like, even when we do our sit down meals in our dining room, there's always one child who isn't happy, doesn't like the food. The 3-year-old can't sit down and eat. Like, so he sometimes feels like we need to give up on that. But I sort of was raised in that regard where like family dinner is important and we should do it regularly. So,
hey, Kelly, watch this. You should tell your husband, or give up on expecting your kids to be anything other than themselves. That way, when they behave like that at the dinner table, it's not going to ruffle your feathers. It's really an adjustment to things you can't control.
Well, what he will do is he will leave the table and he'll go into, now we live in a very small house. It's 1,300 square feet. Like, so he just goes to the living room and takes his food to the living room. And then and you're right. Like, I let the 3-year-old go because I'm not going to, the 3-year-old doesn't eat at the same time for some reason, but so,
Yeah.
but that also is because he's got some, I don't know, he thinks it's too chaotic at the table, but so he's okay like in the living room, but it's an open space, right? I can see him in the living room chair and I'm at the dining room with the children. Like,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Stoics often talk about. It's this idea that we are going to avoid the chaos. We are going to escape fortune. If I go into the living room, I'm free from the whatever's happening in the other room, and until something happens in the living room. It's almost this idea that you are not going to escape drama from happening to you. So what the Stoics talk about, and we'll get more into this in a few weeks, it's just really this acceptance. Not without like letting it go on forever. That's where we get into the correcting. But it's this, I'm not going to run away from the table because my kids are driving me crazy and I can watch Netflix in the living room and not be bothered. So we're trying to get away from running away from life and addressing it head on with a different frame of mind.
so the interesting thing is that, and I appreciate what you're saying, is that he doesn't necessarily run away. He runs away from the actual room, but he still eats his dinner in the chair. But what he has said more than once is that like they follow him, right? Because they want to be with him. And so the 3-year-old is like now in the family room with his toys. And
Right.
so his point is he's like, I just want to have peace when I'm eating. Like, I just want to eat and not have to. So
Yeah.
then, but my point, like coming from the mother point, is like, we have to be together. We're our family,
Yeah.
like we have to like, and also like, we're parents now. If you run away from the kids, can I run away from the kids? Like, so some of that plays into my thought of like, I can go to the back porch if I want and be alone, but then we've got the 3 kids in the table alone. Like, so I do, I believe it's a work in progress, and that is going to be really nice to say to him. He thinks he's figured it out by like running from the table, but I see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also take it
everywhere. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say, you can also take in your specific, you can kind of personalize if you need to personalize your plan, that's always a good thing too. Personalize your expectations, because someone like Rowan, Megan's son, someone like Rowan, if I have him in class, he's more self-sufficient than some other students in class. And so a lot of times you can take in your child's personality, their character, and you can sort of mold the expectations to whatever they need. You can, by personalizing it.
Yeah.
A student like Rowan might not need as much assistance in the beginning as another student, but they might need, help along the way. So you can kind of tell yourself, okay, these are the types of things, these are the needs of these particular kids. And this, maybe it's with your husband. This is the need of my husband right now. Let's sort of come to a reasonable procedure about how to go about things. And that might not take place until, I don't know, later that night when you guys are in bed, or when you guys wake up in the morning. It doesn't have to happen in that sort of chaotic moment, because that can kind of be a little bit crazy as well. So yeah, guys, I know that your time is really valuable. That is all the slides that I had prepared today. We got done a little early. I don't know if anyone else had stuff. I don't know if you had questions for us about behavior mods and how we're planning to do stuff, or just the mission, or any other questions. So I'll just kind of open up the floor for a little bit, and then I guess we'll call it a day. And yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask 2 questions, and then I have 3 questions. I'll keep them short. At this point, I need to do my morning, I'm going to try to do the morning meditation and then the midday mantra. That's what we're working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like my continual work for the next week, right?
I'll put that back on here too. Yeah.
Okay. So that's wonderful. And I really am going to try to use these tools in my toolbox, but I really am feeling really out of it that I don't know what happened in Minneapolis, and I mean, if someone could just tell me so I don't
Yeah.
Google it and be shocked, because
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dobby, did you want to let? It's very disturbing.
I like, and just for reference, like we don't have TV. Like I'm sort of old school. Like I don't look at my news on my phone. So I do sometimes turn on NPR and listen to it on the way to work. But today they didn't say anything, so I'm a little bit like I don't want you to think that I'm totally in this black hole and I don't know what's going on. But for some reason, at this current moment, I really don't know what's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Dobby, did you want to set the foundation?
Yeah, sure. So Kelly, another unarmed black man was arrested yesterday for allegedly what appeared to be passing off some counterfeit money. Anyway, he was arrested, and a police officer was videotaped kneeling on his neck for about 7 minutes, and the guy was on the ground screaming, you know, I can't breathe, I'm gonna die, yada yada, and he died. So that officer and the other 3 who were with him were fired. I don't know if they've been charged, but last night in Minneapolis and around the country, there was a lot of destruction of property, looting, burning of buildings. It was another Mike Brown feeling type of, and anger is through the roof. So
Yeah.
if you get a chance, just turn on CNN for a couple of minutes and you'll be all caught up.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really big event with the current crisis right now. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is when you originally asked in the beginning, I mean, I had an idea of what it could be. You know, I'm still not totally caught up with the story out of Atlanta and the runner. That's a very different situation. I mean, there could be some parallels there, but so yeah, I'm just taking this in right now. Actually, I'm not going to respond, but thanks for sharing that.
I just wanted to say the mission of Behavior Mods, originally, what we want to do with students is go into the epicenter of these issues, go into the Ferguson Florissant School District, go into East St. Louis. Our mission in Behavior Mods is, apart from, you know, the parent seminars, is going into schools and giving them the tools that the Stoics provide us to lessen this sense of anger with students today. We really have a huge vision of, we think that actually there's a lot of cognitive research that we think that it can actually have as much implication as lessening crime. We really think that even if it's a small, minuscule amount, if we, you know, increase the graduation rate, if we can increase the retention rate, we think that we can be successful in trying to get into these schools and build these programs that we have to really give that cognitive mindset to kids to really deal with those issues, with these injustices.
Yep.
Megan, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm so glad that I'm on this call, and I'm interested. I would like to go back, Bob, and listen to the recording on the first seminar that I wasn't on so that I can get the morning mantra. And I love the intentionality of this and this midday mantra of remembering that, you know, we were annoying kids too, and the idea of correcting rather than punishing, I think, is huge, and I'm very excited about diving into that more.
Yep, Megan, and then as a matter of fact, what we're going to do next week is we're going to slow down a little bit, and we're actually going to step back into ancient Rome and pay attention to the Stoics, because as practical as all of this is, without the foundational piece of who these individuals were and how they themselves, as regular people, implemented some of these practices, is crucial to moving forward. It's almost like people love these great quotes, right? It makes you feel good. You can put it on your bumper sticker.
Yeah.
But you taking that saying out of context. And so what we want to do now is take these midday and morning mantras and put them back into context, because that's really where you start to get a sense of how powerful this can be.
Yeah.
If we raise a new generation of thinkers to not look at issues like the Stoics, slavery wasn't an issue, racism, like all of these things we've created were not issues from their perspective, because they dealt with humanity, man issues. And so it's beautiful once you understand really who Marcus Aurelius was, who Epictetus was, who their teachers were. It is a beautiful philosophical approach to living. And Kelly, you brought up something a second ago that Epictetus, one of the slave Stoics, talked about. And it's this idea that as the parent, the men, you know, we tend to run away, and, you know, the woman's left to deal with the kids. Well, this was happening back then too. And there's a wonderful story in the readings about whether or not what that man did was natural and how it's unnatural. And through proof, we can see that the man shouldn't run away to the living room and kind of be, you know, away from the family. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up in the next few weeks. And we really want people to ask questions. And if you want to ask one-on-one questions, please send them our way.
Yeah.
This is what we talk about. So we are ready and willing to answer anything.
And also, we're really huge nerds about this stuff. Like, I'll be straight up with, we're really nerdy about getting into it. And we're really, you know, kind of testaments about practice, you know, how to practice it, what to do, mindsets. We're really, I mean, this is what we are really huge on this. So there's no such thing as a dumb question. Seriously. Yeah. Shoot us an email. Our email is at the bottom of the slide, edubehaviormods@gmail.com. Or through FasterX, whatever you want to do with me, that's all good. So, yeah.
So is there a curriculum that, you know, you're running these parent seminars, is there, whether, even if it's not something that you guys have in place right now, maybe it's something somebody else has in place, but is there a way to work through some of these philosophies and strategies in that, especially practical day-to-day strategies with our kiddos?
So we have developed a 5-lesson curriculum so far. We're still, actually, I think we added one last week. We're still building it. So we have a product coming that is, we kind of worked with a designer with it too, who's done some really cool work with it. We have some sample lessons, but we still need to kind of have them available to pitch to districts. So that's kind of where we are right now. But if you want some simple exercises and stuff, I'd be happy to do that.
I just think, like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, I mean, both of the boys, but particularly, you know, a kid like our older son, Rowan, who just turned 13, I mean, he is cognitively there. I think if I could definitely engage him. And as, you know, when you change the dance, if one person changes the dance, then the other person responds and the whole dance changes, right? And so I think it would be very useful for me to, as I move through this with you guys, for me to engage him on, you know, the philosophy and this is what I'm working with, and this is why, and this is that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Megan, just kind of a personal note, if once we talk about tutoring opportunities, we can definitely talk about that too. So if you want to.
Yeah,
sorry,
cool.
what were you saying? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, we can always talk about that as well.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. This was great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll keep everyone updated. I'll send out an email about the next topic, and we might have to change times depending on. I know that there are some people that couldn't make it due to their work schedule. So
yeah.
All right,
hey, can I just say one more thing? I think that this mid-morning mantra is really interesting, given the situation in Minneapolis and some of our current current events, because we're talking about correcting rather than punishing. And I think that this cycle of we were punished and then it's our automatic response to punish, it goes round and round. I mean, I know you guys are probably going to get into that. I just think it's so poignant that it came up in this mid-morning mantra.
Yeah.
Megan, I'll be honest. When I read that, like, this isn't me, this is stoic thinking. When I read that statement, I was like it completely did a 180 on the way I looked at I was raising my kids, because I was doing what I've always been, what I've had done to me, hurt people.
Sure.
And disciplined parents discipline their kids in the same way. And what I was finding is that if we're all doing this, no wonder we have what we have.
Yeah.
Right? No wonder I'm constantly doing the same thing over and over. So I'm super excited to get into this piece of the lesson. And by all means, if you could share this with other people, we'd love to have this whole screen full of people and questions, so we can all collectively start moving towards something different.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to get the word out here. I think that for everybody.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for going. And not only do we, are we passionate, but we definitely, there's a biblical quote that a passage that really goes along in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And so it's not only one way, we definitely get growth as well. So, yeah.
Right.
So, about there's these ideas, right, of like the reversal of giving and receiving, how like when you share, you're really receiving that, right? And I think that teaching and learning is the same way, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, guys. It was great to talk to you. I'll see you next week.
All right, Megan.
All right.
Thank you.
Everyone. Yeah, it was great. Bye, guys.
See you.